first started doing this, and I looked at a bunch of short films because I thought, what I want to do is one, have them accessible so you can go back. You can share this with your friends and family this weekend. You're like, ah. So it was accessible. So I wanted YouTube. I looked for short films because I wanted us to be able to watch and then like rewatch and go back forth, look at things so that we could really examine them. And what I found was a lot of short films are just kind of this moment of like with the, even 10 minutes, even though it is very poignant, it is very clear. I mean, here's the point. Oh, look, you can be happy in one place and horrible shit can be going down another place, same 10 minutes. And the point's very transparent. A lot of them were kind of like a joke, where at the end, you get the story and then you get the, funny line at the end, right? And this kind of does that, right? At the end, it's like, oh, surprise, it's a baby, right? And I really thought that about this one for a long time, until the more I taught it and the more I looked at it, I thought, this is actually doing much deeper stuff than just, oh, I fooled you, it's a baby. Rathy gets us from the beginning, right? I mean, it really is from the very beginning, from the very first of that music to those high strings, and then even that closeness with all the wheat and the aloneness. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, man, you're out in the middle of Texas. You ever driven across Texas? Yeah. Okay, there's a whole lot of nothing out there, right? So that sense of being alone, but definitely then brings in those high notes, and those high notes are part of that too. And of course, we don't really see. I mean, we kind of got this picture of this big field, but after that, we don't see a whole lot of perspective. We just see these things very closely. We get that creaking, the crow. I mean, we associate all of these things with something bad is happening. That is part of the just stereotype of the kind of symbolism of the scary movie, of something bad, the thriller, something bad is going down. But also this closeness. When we watch The Fridge, remember there were all those close-ups. I mean, on his hand, on the lemon, just constantly this keeping us in this tight space. And a close-up gives us intimacy because we usually talk like this instead of like this, right? And so that's an intimate moment, but it's also a tight, constricted moment as a viewer because we can't see around us. And then, of course, we get these. No, phones don't do that anymore, but what we do, we suspend our disbelief, right? And again, it's just where we're having to build. We get just a little bit of a clue with every single moment, but they're very small ones. And we see the bloody cloth. And then, of course, one of the things about horror movies is always that contrast between you've got sound, to silence, to something loud, right? Just the shock of the loudness in that way. And then watch when he pans up on this. Oh my gosh, this guy is dude, can we have more stereotypical tattoos? Right? He's wearing the old proverbial wife beater, right? And overalls. I mean, what do we think of him? It's like, well, we saw him with a knife. We're not hearing the person anymore. I mean, it is this definitely, we're building this based on our stereotypes, based on our experience with what this setting, this situation, the fact it's a movie, this camera following at that kind of shakiness where it's not just totally smooth all the time is definitely key. And then, of course, that crow, just over and over, that symbolism. And the other thing we often think about animals in movies is that animals know something people can't know, right? If my dogs don't like you, I'm suspicious of you. Right? They know something people can't know. This crow knows something about this guy, right? That it has this innate sense of being able to do this. So that kind of idea and stereotype there too. And then, of course, this is a whole face-off, right? We're getting this guy in these real close-ups. But again, this crow that is put into our mind, this stereotype of animals know something, more about kind of instinctually who people are. But also these close-ups where we get him, and he does become, when his face, he's just all on the screen, he's huge in that way. So he becomes very huge and powerful. And also, like, not seeing all of her. Of course, Hitchcock was very much a proponent of it's not what you see, it's what you don't see. And then listen. Silence again. And then there we get the strings again, but they're the soft, beautiful ones. And notice how it just brightened up a little bit too. Just very subtly, it just this layer of brightness that comes out there. Now, I mean, I think all of that's really smart because what Rathy's definitely doing there is playing on our knowledge of movies, right? He says, okay, here's this world we live in, and here's what we expect, our expectations. But where I think the brilliance comes in and where I think he's doing more than just saying, oh, and it was a baby, haha, fooled you. You expected this guy to be a bad man, but he's a good man, is really all right in here. Whenever it moves out. Because when this camera pulls up and we get this crane angle, this view from above, when we see the whole thing, we see all of a sudden, we see the tractor stopped there and the car stopped there. This is the moment we know what happened, right? At the very end. And it's only when we look at the big picture. Here's this farmer going along in his field. Woman, baby, now, right? He stops. He clearly, pulled out his cell phone and called the cop, but she was having her babies come when babies come. When I had my son, when I checked in the hospital, there was a car in the emergency thing out there, and there was a doctor. The couple was heading back to Silver City, and they turned around because they were closer to Las Cruces, and the guy came in. He's like, my wife's having a baby, and they're like, bring her in. Like, no, she's having the baby. And the baby was delivered in the car in front of the hospital. So yeah, I mean, that, boom, all of a sudden it's only with that we actually understand what went on here. It is easy, don't we? We have to make some assumptions in our everyday life. When you are driving, the light turns green. We assume the ones on the other sides have turned red. Now, if you're in front and you're like me, you wait just a moment, make sure nobody's running the red light, right? When your alarm goes off in the morning, do you pretty much assume it's going off at the time you set it for? I mean, we do a whole lot of things. Do you have to think about every day, okay, here's what I do in the morning on a school day? I mean, I get up, I go to the bathroom, brush my teeth, got that curly hair, so whenever I get up in the morning, it looks like this, and then I'll come back and say hi to Sweetie, because, okay. Okay, I'm at the point in my life where before I do that, I sit down and take my blood pressure, shit like that, right? Oh my God, I am my parents. But, those are the things I do, but I don't have to think, okay, now I am going to do this thing. Now I'm going to, put my legs out of the bed and lift up the covers and get out. There's a whole lot of stuff we do on rote, and it's good. It's a good thing we make those assumptions. This is how I do this, that our brain just goes into that place. But there are other places where we make assumptions based on these little things we see. And we don't see the whole picture. And so I think when Rathy holds back, I think by using actually the horror genre and, twisting it around and doing the little I fooled you so, I fooled you this way, but then pulling back with this camera, his deeper point, I think, is about not, oh, this was funny, ha ha ha, and it was a baby. No, this is about, we make assumptions about who people are, about what happens, about situations when we don't look at the big picture. When we just use this kind of, oh, well, it's always been that way in the past, or I'm just used to it being that way, or people who are like this or like that all the time. So whether it's racism, our habits, our beliefs, whatever it is, it's easy to make those assumptions in those small moments where we're not seeing that big picture. That it's only when we look at that big picture that we go beyond that and we really understand the whole thing. So for me, this one really grew as I, showed it a couple of times, and so I talked a lot about genre and stuff like that, and of course said he's playing with us there. But the more I watched it, the more I thought, he's really got a deeper theme here. It's more than just ha-ha funny. So I don't know. Let's